I think that's why when I came back, and Hal and I went to Fairmont first, because I'd worked there, the first job I had out of school, and when I was over there, Hal wanted to take me in as a partner. When I come back, he even wrote me a letter when I was in England, said, "You're going to be my partner." And then when I got back, Hal and I were there, he bought us a house and everything, and right after we come back, and I was going to go in, but then his son decided he wanted to be a pharmacist, and he said, "I can't do that now." Mm-hmm. Well, he bought this house for us, so we went right on to Austin, and we sold it. It was in our name, and made a little money on it. And he'd like to have it back, but then he didn't treat me right, you know, because he couldn't do anything different. And then we started the store in Austin, and that's when I got orders in to try to get into the other war, but I was all set for a while.
Never did think to ask, did you spend a lot of time in the military hospitals themselves, other than when you're just delivering things and so on?
Oh yeah, when we were in England, I'd take stuff out there, and that was the same way I was telling you. I knew different doctors. Mm-hmm. I got to know them. They'd come in to get supplies, and they'd always come and want me to go over this stuff or get some things they couldn't get, but you could order, you know, if they had to have special things that they weren't sending. Right. And then we would go out there sometimes, all the officers, they'd have a party and invite you out, and our men from our unit, and we got to know them pretty good. And while we're there, they'd take you around and show you patients and what they're doing and all that.
That was what I was going to get to. Was it what would be the most accurate description, general description of the nature, the character, the quality, whatever, the doctors and nurses as they treated the soldiers who were injured?
Oh, they treated them just terrific. They did. This one doctor took me in one day, and this fella had been shot out of a plane down, and it was burned, and he got burned on his legs and arms, and they had him, I can see him right now there in England, strapped here, you know, both up, both arms up, and all that was hitting the bed was his butt. Oh. And they were taking care of all those burns and stuff, and he was going to live. Yeah. But to see that in the same way up there, our doctors were all up there helping those in that hospital in Nancy, and when I was there those 2 days, I went through all that stuff. That one day, I saw so much of it, I had to go outside because I just was getting sick. Yeah. But I'd worked with doctors, a doctor over there so much that I was interested in all of it and took it in.
Now, from your recollections, good quality doctors did not avoid military service either.
Oh no, well, just like the whole hospital unit went from here, doctors and nurses.
Oh, as a unit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's when I went, you know, because they were getting ready to move out then too, and I was interested, and I went right at about the same time.
Okay, I didn't realize it. I guess I did vaguely recall they had more units in those days that were geographic based, so a whole lot of people from a given area went together.
I ran into, I think, 4 different people from the little town of West Concord while I was over there. And one of them was in a hospital, and I went over there to that hospital and see him because we were delivering there in England to that place. And then our doctor was in Nottingham in the hospital there working. He went over after I did. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know he was going, and he'd come over there, and so he had been up on the Alcan Highway and married a gal that was a nurse up there. And so then when I went over to see him, I delivered some stuff to that hospital so I could visit him, and he told me how nobody in West Concord knows, but he said, "My wife's pregnant." And so this David, his boy then would be about a year younger than our Tom, because Doc didn't go over till later, you know. And so we got together 2-3 times over there. And then I was getting some film one day in Paris, and I went in there, and here was this fellow, Ron Mosier, and he was 2 doors from me, lived in West Concord. And then the last, before we came home, just before Thanksgiving, we were driving down the street there out of Reams there, out by this Wormont, and I looked out, and here was Stan Wilson, and he was just getting ready to come home for Thanksgiving, so I had him come over to our place to eat there too. And I got his picture right here that day. When we
Oh, the two of you together?
Yeah. And I had one made. He was a sergeant. And it was just out of a little old camera I had over there. He came to Thanksgiving Day with our place there, and that was,
right.
He came home before I did then.
You got your bars and he got his stripes.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of that stuff I took, and it'd be interesting if somebody would want some of that stuff. There's a Thanksgiving at one of the hospitals that we were invited to over in England, and then they put their menu out, you know. And they would invite us to a lot of those things because we just were on our own at those, living in those houses of those English people.
All right. Yes.
So, well, I just got stuff that. Now here, they talked about the boat we were on, and this was December 14th, 43. Then the other one was on December 13th, and that was just before we were going to get there. And then they have a prayer here at the bottom of what the troops over in Africa. This one fella gave this prayer.
Yeah.
On the year before, for Christmas.
So like a newsletter?
Yeah.
A daily or?
Yeah.
9th long day at sea.
Yeah. So it's getting toward the end. And here, this is another deal where they gave me when I was a special service officer things you could do and get lined up for them. And here was where I got the orders to take the money. It was $7,500, and that was just for the people on the boat in case they had to have food. And that was a lot of money for food back then.
Right. Well, yeah, when they gave you that many guards to help guard it.
Yeah.
I still get the kick whenever I see military orders. Who all gets copies of it?
Yeah. And all those are all papers there. And this one here is all writing. I'm the supply officer of G50, and this was for thanking you for doing that job for D-Day.
Oh, okay. Commendation from Colonel S.B. Hayes, Office of the Chief Surgeon.
Here's a diagram of that boat where you had to go up and report if you saw anything. That's how far they went with that.
Oh, so you could accurately tell them where you saw something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah, because all us landlubbers don't use Navy terminology.
here's like hundreds of those things we had to put stuff into to ship, you know. And just a whole warehouse full of those sealed lockers.
Yeah, foot lockers type.
Yeah, that was just in there.
Who's the little guy, short guy with you?
That's one of my sergeants, and that little guy, he was a catcher on our softball team.
Ah.
So he was with us all those years. So I had to take, and this is what they sent me. And
Bronze Star.
I never expected anything like this.
Oh, okay. This was okay. I got you now. This was pre-D-Day.
That was for the stuff over in England for getting ready for D-Day.
Yeah.
And then this is another one they sent with it. And then I got the Bronze Star upstairs. I've never had it out. Things like that. I've got. Let's see here.
Oh, sure. There's the whole text of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it tells. I've got more of that stuff too. Let's see here.
I still get a kick out of that daily newsletter from the briny bits aboard Cirone. The Cirone, that was the name of the ship, obviously. Oh, Siboney, there it is. It's better print on that one. Briny bits aboard Siboney.
Oh, they call it the Siboney.
Siboney. Oh, that's how you pronounce it.
This is our pictures when we got married in Parnell, and after I come home that day. And
now, was it your experience that there were a whole lot of people that speeded up their wedding dates a little bit during the early years of World War II?
Yeah, they did, but you know, see, Helen and I had known each other since high school, and then we wanted to wait to be sure we could handle everything, you know. And
right.
so if I hadn't finished school down there, I'd have been overseas without getting home.
But what about in the enlisted ranks? Were there enlisted
Oh
guys
yeah, there's lots of, all good many of those fellas, you know, in our unit were married, and we knew most of them.
Yeah.
Then we'd have to, we even had to read their mail, you know, before they could send it home.
Oh, you got to do some of the censoring.
We had to do it. So each officer had so many people that had to read so many of them.
I see.
So then if there was anything in there, you'd have to cut it out. I had those trophies, and that's when the general that I was with when.
What, this is at Fort Bragg?
Yeah, where we were out in front of all those people.
So you're getting your
General Kennedy. Then they had a whole article about that in the Stars and Stripes and stuff. And I got a whole trunk full of pictures of, they're just certain ones that, you've probably seen enough now. Well, I had a couple Army ones here, like what our barracks were like or something.
I got a feeling in the 60s, I think some of the barracks were still about the same that I was in.
Yeah.
They didn't upgrade them a whole lot.
Well, now, right here is when we were out in Fort Bragg, and this is Hal Smith and his wife, and this is Len, the one that's out there that was with Penny's, that's out in Sun City, and that's his wife Helen, and there's me and Helen. And we were at a picnic there that day, I guess, out in Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
And so then Helen went and visited her quite a bit while we were gone. And then we've been out to see them, and we hear from them every year.
Yeah.
Let's see. No, this is the same picture
the
here.
general.
But Helen had this. I don't know if there's any more. Oh yeah, here's the barracks like we were in. Yeah. That was down in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where instead of windows, you just had flaps.
Yeah. See, I was just a private here.
Yeah.
But I was doing all the work of those sergeants. Now this is a picture Helen sent me when I was over in England. And I don't know if there's many more here. No, probably not. But I've got a whole trunk full of that stuff. I'm gonna have to clean it out someday.
You gotta organize it.
Yeah, well, it's just pictures of everything.
Yeah.
I don't know much else.
Well, let me wrap it up then, and thank you a whole lot for going through and recounting recollections of a period of time 50-some years ago. That's what makes it astounding, is that it was that far back, and yet recollections obviously are still rather clear.
I told Helen one day it'd be interesting if you just wrote a little book right from the day you started, and all the other little things I haven't told you where you don't have the time and it's not that important, but it was important at the time. And
yeah.
A lot of people really good to you, and you know, just like those people in England, and they had lost a little child, and when I got pictures and stuff, they were so happy to see them. And what they would do then is every morning, our Army trucks would come by and pick up all of our men to go back out there that 3-4 miles.
Okay.
And you were ready to go. But every morning when I got up to shave, I was upstairs and they were down. They would have tea, a pot of tea for me. and also some of those cookies, but with no sugar. They didn't have sugar or anything.
Okay.
And that would always be there. And we could go and clean up and shave. And then when I was in there, they'd have that. All that time I was there, every morning.
Now, it made me think. Now, your before 1942 experiences, would it be right to say it's pretty much in Minnesota?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much localized?
Mm-hmm.
And so those 3 years or so that you were a part of the military, in kind of short order, your reaction to meeting and working with people from all other parts of the country, United States, who had different backgrounds, and then as you described, people in England and France and otherwise, just regular, the people next door sort of people. What impressions, as you sit here and think about it now, what impressions did that make on a, quote, a country boy from Minnesota?
Well, I just a lot of these real good friends. I hear 2 or 3 of them are from down south, and they write the nicest letter. And we knew each other, and we knew their wives. And Alan did too. And at first, when they first got out, we heard from a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they gradually dropped off, and they'll write and tell how their family is if one's sick, and some of them have passed away. And one of the officers I hear from now is from Wisconsin, and we've seen them, and he's got his wife in a nursing home now. He's got Alzheimer's and stuff like that. And then Baker, the one that I was my best buddy, one of them out of the 2 of the best, and we got his card at Christmas this year, and he's not going to live long. He's got cancer, so we called him Christmas.
But would young people today benefit from working with, living with, and so forth, people from other parts of the country and the world, just to make them aware that?
Well, I think they would for one reason, because that's what I was going to tell you. When we came back from service and went to Austin, and I got into so many things I never would have because of seeing how bad things were there, and I thought we could help.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing we started, they needed more scout troops, and we started organizing those. Then I got on the school board, and then we took in an exchange student in '62 from Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
He came over and he could hardly speak English, and I was on the school board, and they were going to send him back, and I said, well, give him a chance. And we talked it over, and my gosh, before it was over, his dad was a veterinarian over there, and he was going all over to all these country schools, giving talks to the farm, the 4-H clubs and all that.
Mm.
And he's been back 2 or 3 times and came back to their class reunion, the 25th of Tom, it was the same.
Oh.
And they just learned that. And then for 5 years, we were the ones that helped pick out the exchange students to come to Austin.
Okay.
And then we got in on working with people, and you think about that, we handled the United Fund for the whole county, and in the Red Cross drive and stuff like that. I did so much of that stuff I should have, where I had to hire druggists, but everybody said, why did you do that? It cost you so much. I don't know, I feel better, because we've done that always, and I think it was more because you hope our country never gets bombed and stuff like over there. Now all around us, how do you know when something like that, where you just don't know anymore?
Yeah.
You can't trust or depend on, seems like anybody hardly over in those different countries, what they're going to do next. Just like with Russia now, we joined in with them, then they had all their problems, and now we're sending so much stuff over to them, and what are we doing it? Are we trying to keep them from fighting us again, or what?
Yeah, it would be nice to know
You don't understand
where we're headed.
Yeah.
Well, let me shut it down here before I wear you out.